Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever actually paused to wonder why the everyday things you interact with feel the exact way they do? Like why your car seat has a very specific width, or how the exact height of your kitchen counter was chosen? Well, I can tell you right now, it is certainly not random. Actually, it's dictated by a hidden science that literally shapes everything around us. Today, we're exploring a seriously fascinating concept called anthropometry. Think of it as the invisible ruler measuring our world. By the time we wrap up this explainer, I promise you, you're never going to look at a simple office desk, a piece of clothing, or even a doorway the exact same way again. Okay, let's dive into this. Anthropometry sounds like a pretty intimidating academic word at first glance, right? But we can break it right down to its simple, literal translation from its ancient Greek roots. Anthropos simply means human, and metron means measure. You put those together, and it's quite literally the measurement of the human individual. But what's truly interesting here is the actual scope of this science. Anthropometry involves the systematic measurement of the physical properties of the human body. We're primarily talking about dimensional descriptors here, the precise size and shape of our bodies. It's essentially the foundational collection of data that tells us exactly how much physical space a human being takes up in the physical world. Now, to understand where we are today, we really have to look at where this science began. Historically, anthropometry started out as an early tool of physical anthropology, and it was utilized for several very distinct purposes. Early practitioners used it as a tool for identification and to better document and understand human physical variation across different groups. It was also heavily relied upon in the field of paleoanthropology to study human physical development. Furthermore, according to the historical records of the field, there were various early attempts made using these measurements to try and correlate physical dimensions with both racial and psychological traits. It was a remarkably broad tool, originally aimed at categorizing and dissecting the human form in a multitude of ways as early scientists tried to understand human populations. And this brilliantly illustrates how the application of this tool has dramatically evolved over time. Historically, we see a really fascinating use case: analyzing past living standards. There was a time when the commonly used methods and approaches for analyzing living standards just weren't giving historians the answers they needed, so they turned to anthropometric history. Looking at the recorded physical dimensions of people in the past actually became a very useful way for historians to figure out just how well those historical populations lived. Now, compare that to its modern use, which is an entirely different ballgame. Today, we're taking massive amounts of statistical data about the distribution of body dimensions in the population and using it to optimize products. We basically moved from using measurements to look backward into the history of living standards, to using statistical data to proactively build and optimize the modern world around us. So where exactly do we see this statistical optimization happening today? Well, we see it happening across multiple fields: industrial design, clothing design, ergonomics, and architecture. I want you to actively think about this right now. How comfortable is the chair you're sitting in as you watch this explainer? How well do the clothes you're wearing right now fit your specific body shape? How easily can you reach the top shelves in your kitchen? Literally none of that is by accident. It is a direct result of professionals actively using anthropometric data. This science dictates the layout of the architecture you walk through and the ergonomics of the tools you use every single day. So the absolutely crucial point here is that your daily physical comfort and the overall usability of your environment are meticulously engineered through these exact statistical body measurements. But here is where the science gets incredibly dynamic. Why? Because humans are absolutely not static. This reveals a pretty fundamental reality about us. Changes in our lifestyles, our nutrition, and the ethnic composition of populations lead to actual, measurable changes in the distribution of body dimensions. We aren't the exact same size or shape as our ancestors were, right? As our diets shift over generations, and as populations migrate and demographics blend together, the statistical baseline of what a human body looks like actively alters. The data simply cannot sit still, because human biology and society don't sit still. Let's move to and see how this builds into a continuous, fascinating cycle that ensures an anthropometrist's job is literally never finished. First, we experience large-scale lifestyle and nutrition changes, for example, the heavily documented rise in obesity rates. This directly triggers the second phase, a significant change in the overall distribution of body dimensions across the population. We literally change shape on a macro level. Which then brings us to the third critical step, the absolute requirement to regularly update our anthropometric data collections. Think about it. If industrial designers and architects kept using data from decades ago, our modern clothes, our ergonomic chairs, and our buildings simply wouldn't fit us anymore.
It's this constant, ongoing loop of measuring, designing, evolving, and then having to remeasure the whole thing all over again.
Which brings us to the ultimate question facing designers, scientists, and, well, all of us living in this constructed world today. As our lifestyles and nutrition continue to shift, how will our changing bodies reshape the design of the products around us? Take a second to think about the future of your own environment. If our dimensions continue to evolve as they always have historically, the entire built environment is going to have to adapt and evolve right along with us. The hidden science of anthropometry will be quietly working in the background, systematically measuring those changes and continuously redesigning your world to fit you. I really hope you've enjoyed this explainer and that it's given you a brand new lens through which to view your everyday surroundings. Stay curious, keep questioning the design of the world around you, and as always, keep learning.